The horn didn't stop for a full 2 minutes, just a long, angry blast that turned my quiet hillside into a parking lot meltdown. Through my kitchen window, I watched a silver BMW stuck in front of my brand-new steel gate like it had hit the end of the world. And out there, red-faced and waving her arms, Linda Parker screamed, "Open it right now, the Homeowners Association owns this road. I moved out here because I wanted space silence and a piece of land that didn't come with anyone else's opinions attached." Ashford County wasn't fancy, but it was pretty rolling trees, gravel roads, the kind of place where neighbors waved and mostly minded their business. I was Ethan Carter, semi-retired, the kind of guy who reads property documents for fun and fixes things before they break. I bought my land for one reason: I wanted it to be mine, end of story. The first time Linda showed up, I didn't even know her name. All I saw was that BMW crawling up my driveway like it owned the view. She stepped out wearing sunglasses that looked like they were part of her job description. Big smile, tight jaw, clipboard in hand, the classic "I'm being polite while I ruin your day" posture. "Hi," she said, drawing the word out like we were old friends. "I'm Linda Parker, president of Maple Ridge Estates Homeowners Association." I remember blinking at her like she'd just introduced herself as the mayor of my backyard. Because Maple Ridge Estates was down the hill, neat lawns matching mailboxes, the kind of neighborhood with rules about the color of your curtains. "I'm not in Maple Ridge," I said, keeping it friendly. Linda tilted her head. "You're in the area, which means you're under our standards." Then she pointed past me, right at the fence line I'd started putting up around my garden. "That fencing is non-compliant. It needs to be white vinyl, 6 feet capped posts, and it must match the community aesthetic." I almost laughed because it was absurd, but she wasn't joking, not even a little. I told her again, slower, "My land isn't part of your homeowners association." And she hit me with a smile that wasn't a smile. "Oh, honey," she said, like I was confused about my own address. "We'll get that sorted." 2 weeks later, a certified letter showed up in my mailbox. Not a welcome note, a violation notice. It said I owed $500 for unauthorized exterior modifications, and if I didn't fix it within 10 days, the fines would stack daily. At the bottom, there was a line that made my stomach drop. "Failure to comply may result in legal action." I stood on my porch reading it twice, trying to figure out how a neighborhood I didn't live in was billing me like a subscription service. My first instinct was the same as most people's: avoid the drama, pay it, move on. But then I heard tires on gravel. A car cut across the edge of my property like it was a shortcut. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about a fence. Linda wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to control an access point. I went down to the county records office the next morning. No anger speeches, no Facebook rants, just me, a stack of old maps, and a clerk who looked bored enough to have seen every version of stupid. I pulled the plat, the deed, the subdivision docs, anything with a stamp on it. And I found something interesting. A temporary construction easement from 2003. Temporary, 18 months. Meaning whatever permission Maple Ridge had to cut through that section of land wasn't some eternal right. It was a short-term arrangement that should have died years ago. I drove home with copies in a folder, feeling that sharp mix of relief and disgust. Relief because I wasn't crazy. Disgust because I knew exactly what Linda had been doing. That afternoon, the BMW returned, this time with a guy holding a measuring wheel. Linda hopped out like she was arriving at a trial. "This is our surveyor," she said. "We're clarifying boundaries." The surveyor walked, measured, muttered numbers, then glanced at Linda like he was waiting for a cue. Linda turned to me and said, "Your house might be outside Maple Ridge, but your improvements are affecting Homeowners Association property." I held up my folder. "Funny, because the county says your easement expired." Her face flickered just for a second, then she snapped it back into place. "That document is old," she said. "Our attorney disagrees." Then she leaned in, voice low, like she was offering me a deal. "You can make this easy. Replace the fence, pay the fine, and stop blocking resident access." There it was, not standards, not aesthetic. Resident access. I kept my voice calm, but my hands were tight around that folder. "Linda, your residents are driving across my land. That stops today." Her smile thinned into something sharp. "Oh, we'll see." The next week was death by paperwork. A notice about nuisance debris. A complaint about my unapproved landscaping. Another letter warning me about unsafe materials because I had stacked lumber by my shed. It was petty, constant, and designed to wear me down. And for a couple nights, I'll admit it, it almost worked. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my bills and those violation letters doing the math. Not the math of right and wrong, the math of energy. How many hours do I want to waste fighting someone who treats this like her hobby? How much peace am I willing to pay for? I got so close to just ripping down the fence, writing a check, and pretending none of it mattered. Not because I believed Linda, because I wanted my quiet back. Then I called Megan Brooks, local property attorney, straight shooter, the kind of person who doesn't get impressed by clipboards. She flipped through my documents, tapped the easement line with her pen, and said, "Ethan, this isn't an HOA issue. This is trespass." And that word hit different. Trespass isn't a suggestion, it's a line. Megan helped me draft one clean letter certified direct boring in the best way. It informed Maple Ridge Estates Homeowners Association that the easement was expired, that access was revoked, and any further crossings would be documented. Linda responded the only way Linda knew how. She texted me 8:00 a.m. tomorrow. Boundary meeting. Don't be difficult. So I showed up at 8 o'clock. With my folder, my phone recording, and the kind of calm you only get when you know you're holding the real receipts. Linda arrived with 2 board members and her surveyor again, like she was staging a performance. She pointed at the path cutting through my land and said loud enough for everyone, "Residents have a right to use this route. You're blocking community access." I looked right at her and said, "Linda, are you stating the Homeowners Association has legal access through my property?" She nodded. "Yes, absolutely." Perfect, because my phone caught every word. I opened the folder and read the easement clause out loud, the part that said temporary, the part that said 18 months, the part that ended in a date that expired nearly 2 decades ago. The 2 board members exchanged a look that wasn't friendly. Linda snapped, "That doesn't matter. We've used it for years." Megan's voice echoed in my headline. I said, "Using it doesn't make it yours." Linda's face went tight. "You're going to regret this." Then she turned to her surveyor like he could magically redraw the county. That's when I made the move that ended her whole game, because while she was busy sending letters, I'd been shopping. There was a neighboring parcel, 50 acres, that wrapped around the shortcut like a hand closing into a fist. It wasn't cheap, but it was clean, and the deed was clear. I bought it, not to be flashy, not to be dramatic, but because it meant the shortcut wasn't a shortcut anymore. It was private land from start to finish. And private land comes with fences, and fences come with gates. So yeah, I built one. Heavy steel keypad lock camera mounted high and a no trespassing sign that didn't leave room for interpretation. Linda didn't believe I'd actually do it. She probably thought I'd fold like everyone else, which is why on the day the gate went up, she drove straight at it like her anger could open metal. Then she stopped hard bumper inches from the bars and laid on the horn like it was a weapon. I walked outside slow because I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of rushing. Linda jumped out heels on gravel and shouted, "Open it! The Homeowners Association has authority here." I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "This isn't Maple Ridge. This is my property." She jabbed a finger toward the gate keypad. "You can't block residents. I'll have you cited, towed, sued. You don't understand how this works." I held up my phone. "I understand exactly how this works. You stated on record you had legal access." Then I held up the easement copy. "You don't." Her eyes flicked to the camera, then back to me, like she was suddenly aware the audience wasn't on her side. She tried one last angle, pure Karen panic dressed up as morality. "You're hurting the community," she said. "People rely on that road." I nodded once. "Then they can use the road they actually own." She stormed toward the gate like she might try to force it. And that's when a county deputy rolled up. Not because I wanted a show, but because Megan told me to treat it like what it was. The deputy listened, looked at my documents, glanced at the camera, then looked at Linda like she was a grown adult who should have known better. He told her to step back and stop harassing the property owner. Linda sputtered, "I'm the president of—" He cut her off. "Ma'am, I don't care." That line, it drained her. Because Linda's whole power came from people caring, people getting intimidated, people choosing convenience over conflict. The next week, Maple Ridge held an emergency board meeting, not the kind with cookies and landscaping plans, the kind where people show up angry and ask why their president has been writing fines to someone outside the Homeowners Association. Megan sent the recording, the documents, and the complaint clean, simple, undeniable. And Linda's authority collapsed the moment it hit daylight. She didn't get to spin it. She didn't get to manage the narrative. The board removed her from enforcement duties pending investigation. Then the county started asking questions about misuse of HOA power. And the last time I saw Linda Parker, she wasn't holding a clipboard. She was sitting in her BMW at the bottom of my hill, staring up at a gate that wasn't moving. No speech, no threats, just silence. Because the moment someone like that runs into a boundary they can't bully, the whole act stops working. Lesson documents beat drama.